A very good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise. It is this Friday morning. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
And a very warm welcome to you as well. I am Kayla Magwa.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Good morning and welcome to Lagos.
All right, so go ahead. Let's take a look at this. For instance, yes, it is 27 degrees centigrade here in Abuja. Humidity is 70%. But look at this Third Mainland Bridge, guys. So I wonder what you think about this bridge.
Right.
So, what?
Third Mainland Bridge, right.
Oh, okay.
I sense a game
because,
coming. I sense a game coming.
Is it because what? We didn't call it properly? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. So I know some of you think you do know Abuja a lot, way much more than some others. Tell us where this is. Yeah, just send us an email. We want to test you. Send us an email. Sunrise Daily now at channelstv.com. Yeah, look at that again.
I mean,
Sunrise
I can't even tell where it is.
channelstv.com. So it's not for you. It's for those who are watching.
I mean, I thought when I saw it, I'd be able to.
Well, it's not for her to tell us.
No, it's
so
not.
It's for you watching to tell us where it is. So
good luck. Good luck to everyone.
If we'll achieve what we want to do here today. Because look, it's a Friday. Lots of people try to get away to some other places, and they might have passed this area. Nonetheless, going to some fun spot somewhere in the FCT. So, yeah, we want to know where that is. So if you call it Third Mainland Bridge, it's up to you.
So send that email, sunrisedaily@channelstv.com. Let's see if you can tell where that is.
Ayo.
Oh, don't lay claim to what is not yours. Third Mainland Bridge is mine. Okay? It's in Lagos. Let's just put that out there first of all. Okay? Rest that. But I'm not going to take you to Third Mainland Bridge. And you can please go ahead with your quiz. Okay, well, maybe I'll do a quiz as well. I won't even ask you. This is Abule Egba in Lagos. In that response, if you know the answer to Chamberlain's poser, what's the history of Abule Egba? Why is it called Abule Egba? And you won't even believe it. For those who know Lagos, would you believe that this is Abule Egba? That highway that you see right there is actually a bridge that leads into one of the largest, if not the largest, local government in Lagos. And back, on the other side, it leads you into Agege Iju axis. But Abule Egba is where you are right now. You've seen it on your screen. What's the backstory to it? That's your poser today. In the meantime, Chamberlain, what's happening today?
Yeah, so a number of things. I mean, we couldn't capture all of them. I think we got just one or two in terms of what will be happening today. So I know that the fourth ministerial briefing is going to feature this morning, where the Minister of Information will be hosting another colleague of his, minister, in the power sector. They need to break down certain things. Of course, lots of people not exactly happy because their reactions coming through about that tariff hike. So there'll be a lot more conversation as to why, what happened, if you haven't heard enough of it, and perhaps what do we expect moving forward. So that is part of what will be happening today here in the FCT. And I know that I think the National Cancer Health Fund too, they'll have a conversation about that one too.
Yes, the National Institute for Cancer Research, NICRAT, and the International Society of Media in Public Health will be discussing implementation. So that's coming up as well in the nation's capital.
So we'll look forward to all of that and a lot more. It's Friday, so keep an eye on the Super Falcons. So what do we expect in that regard? I know, don't just go ahead and support them as much as you can. So all of that and more will be going on today in Abuja. Ayo.
Well, yes, in Lagos, on this program, we're going to be looking at Business Morning on Sunrise Daily at 10 o'clock, and that issue of bank recapitalization still hasn't left the front burner. The dust hasn't quite settled. Bank recapitalization, counting the costs. That's the theme, the central theme of Business Morning on Sunrise Daily at 10 o'clock this morning. And yes, you've seen that banner. Let's take a look at what the papers are saying this morning.
newspaper is continuing with the reactions concerning the increase in electricity tariff. And so you see the theme here, the main theme, tariff hike. NERC disagrees with DISCOs over coverage areas. So that conversation continues as FG earns. The first of the riders here reads 137 billion naira from hike. I know some may think already. NERC pegs Forex at 1,463.3 to the dollar. And it says, despite Naira gains, new tariff not likely to affect manufacturers. Ascribed to MAN. It's backdoor to general tariff hike. Ascribed to consumers. So some consumers there too also getting their voices heard here today, as we will equally continue our focus on that on the program here this morning. But look at this other one, the Nigerian Observer equally focusing on that subject matter. Lagos worst hit as NERC reveals areas affected by new tariff hike. And then the writer says, opinions divided over impact. I mean, it's a social matter. You'll always likely get this kind of reactions. And so, yeah, so that's the Observer's perspective on the same matter here today. Have a look at Nigerian Tribune. Electricity tariff. Senate to wade in as NEF knocks FG. Consumer Protection Forum gives NERC 72 hours to reverse hike. Is it deja vu all over again? Who knows? So that's Nigerian Tribune this morning. But let's flip to Nigerian News Direct. We need your involvement to achieve Vision 2050. Tinubu to ECOWAS Parliament. So, you know what they say, without a vision, and what happens to the people? All right. Well, Daily Trust is on a different tangent entirely. Bandits kill 7, abduct 13 family members in Kaduna FCT. So you need to put this in proper context. So when you speak about that, so you read the story and understand what that actually entails here this morning. So that's the big lead on the front page of Daily Trust here today. Daily Times, yes, is talking about Tinubu to Nigerians. I can't underperform on job I campaigned for. So he's being emphatic, the president. So take him up on that, if you will. So that's what he says right there, and seems to be doubling down on that narrative, which is held for a while now, and looks as if it will be that same tangent or trajectory for some time to come. But then to The Guardian, legacy of international tourneys, how hosting mega events fail to catalyze infrastructural development. That's The Guardian newspaper. And then this Nigeria, military name top terrorist commanders killed in 3 months. So they've got quite a number of follow-up on the riders here today, so you may want to take a look at that as well. How about Business Day? Petrol queues return as subsidy backlog stifles supply. Oh boy, not again. And then New Telegraph, Akpabio to Falana. Ningi suspension, Senate's decision, not mine. Yeah. And then at the bottom, so they talk about crude oil theft, relocate military chiefs to Niger Delta, Pengasyn tells FG. And then Daily Independent, PDP governors, North Central Caucus draw battle lines over party's chair. So there might be a lot more to expect from that one in the days ahead. So quite a number of interesting stories on the front pages this morning, guys. All right, so there you go. Some of the headlines this morning, but I know that lots of reactions still coming through for the power sector. Many asked, look, they thought that the CBN, there's a rule that also insists that all of those transactions, natural resources domiciled here, local currency should be the transaction, should be the bane. It shouldn't be trading in international currency here on this soil. And many wonder, so what's the rationale behind pricing gas in dollars? What's the benefit then to Nigerians who it is a natural resource? Why is it that some other countries who don't have it as natural resource appear to be better? And us, for instance. And so all of those questions still lingering as this power sector, this gas challenge continues, which the briefing will also happen today. So, of course, you know, there'll be a lot more. And the challenge with this is, when they talk about appropriate pricing, it never ends. It's a journey, not a destination. So if they implemented it in May 2024, it'll be 25, 26. Oh boy. Oh dear. I think it's not going to be an easy challenge, I tell you.
I mean, it's a very interesting dynamic. You know, one area that I've been looking at really is security. Yesterday, the Defense Headquarters did their bi-weekly briefing, and I'm seeing that from Blueprint newspaper today. It's important that we showcase what the military is doing in this fight against insurgency. And Major General Edward Buba stated yesterday that the troops have killed ISWAP Commander Mainok, 2,300 others in 3 months. They've arrested 2,308, rescued 1,241 hostages, recovered 2,847 weapons. Meanwhile, the Navy has burst 400,000-liter diesel bunker in Lekki. So I think it's very important that we highlight these stories. There's more on it from page 8 of the Blueprint newspaper, but very interesting dynamic that we're facing in this country. The military has been doing a lot of work. I mean, there is so much going on in this country. Just the massive size of our country and the depth of this issue that we're dealing with when it comes to security. We need to support the troops. We need to be able to look at them and say, hey, you're doing a great job, because they are awake while we're asleep. And while they're being attacked and being killed, you know, it'll be wrong for us to continually put the military down. It's a mindset that I think has to be imbibed by a lot of Nigerians. Yes, call them out when they do the wrong things. When things are not done properly, call them out. Be able to lead them and say, you know, let them know this is being done wrongly right now. But it's important that we support our troops, and kudos to them for the amount of work that they've done in the past few weeks. Major General Edward Buba is the Director of Defense Media Operations for the Defense Headquarters, and it was very reassuring to hear these figures yesterday.
Well, one of the key things, you know, for this is, ever since we started battling, trying to eradicate insurgents, I mean, if you look at other countries who face this kind of challenge, things, in terms of doing things differently, we need to have a rethink. Yes, the military, to protect the territorial integrity of the country, they're training to shoot to kill. So when they perform a lot of these internal roles, or we combine them with the DSS, the police, it takes away from the core essence of why they were trained or what they were trained for in the first instance. So we need to see us improve our level of policing. Police needs to step up and cover this gap, such that the military can focus on several other areas. We need to ensure that the capacity of the military, who says the police cannot be, you know, ramped up, do better training to address this concern for ourselves? Who says? Now, some other nations, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. All of the conversation as to, oh no, if we do this about police, these persons will use it. There's nothing that we're doing that hasn't been done before. There's no challenge that we think we will face or about to face that's not been faced somewhere before. Maybe because we took away history at some point, so many don't. We're repeating the same mistake. But these things are all there. We need to discuss them, debate them, let superior arguments have the day. That's the idea of a democratic institution, or democracy at that. Ayo.
I'm not going to pick any other topic this morning, Chamberlain. I'm completely with Kayla this morning, completely with her on this matter. You know, from time to time, and I also appreciate what you have also said, perhaps to underscore the fact that we need to allow the security agencies to do the things for which we have assigned them to do. We made laws for them to do. For instance, as you said, Chamberlain, the police has its job cut out. The military, they have their jobs cut out. Many people don't know we have more than 10 security agencies in this country. So do we have NSCDC, that is the Security and Civil Defense Corps. We have FRSC, we have police, we have so many units, you know, doing the job of security agencies in this country. When you go ransack a warehouse in the city, or in any city in Nigeria, for instance, and you're saying that there are contrabands in country that shouldn't have come into the country, it means that one agency of government didn't do its job. Some security agency of government is responsible for ensuring that contrabands don't come into the country. How come they did? Those are issues to answer. But believe me, I'm with Kayla completely this morning. We bash the military, we talk down on them, and a lot of times it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. With the kind of training that they have, as you said, Chamberlain, it's shoot to kill. They are not called armed forces for nothing. It's forces. But the police was some force. I don't know whether they have finally totally removed the word force from their operations. Now it's service or whatever it is. But the military is doing a yeoman's job, and we are dragging them to do things that are not their primary. But yes, as the constitution, or was it the army, the law that set up the army is concerned, they can be called into the country to perform some of these roles that we call them into. But that's not their primary. So if they have to focus on other things, they leave their primary. But while they are doing all of these things, we don't know the politics or whatever decisions that inform them doing those things. We say kudos to you. We really do say kudos to you, and we appreciate the work that you are doing. Please do not relent in doing these things. Nigerians are behind you, at least those who believe and know that you are doing an amazing job. And we should also give due attention to the police. We have been talking about state police for eons. When are we going to do something about it? Which state has finally come out to say we can handle this? I think it's about time. And I think that's the point you're making, Chamberlain.
All right, so there you go. We'll be back in a moment and take you through what we've got for you here today. So stay on with us.
With Glovo, you order anything you want, and when you receive it, you celebrate with your whole body. Because when that tasty grilled chicken is here, the weekend starts. The ingredients for your favorite recipe just in time. And when the cake arrives, the party is on. Because receiving anything on Glovo deserves a dance. Download the app, order anything you want, and track it minute by minute until it arrives. Glovo, order anything, we deliver in minutes.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of a family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
Executives face local macroeconomic turbulence and global geopolitical upheavals. Don't worry, Texam UK got your back. A transformative journey with Texam Strategies for Sustainable Organizational Success Program, April 24 to 25, 2024, in Lagos will position you and your organization for these challenges. Our interactive sessions, games, assessments, and peer-to-peer learning are unique, with a great faculty led by John Peters, former chair, Association of MBAs and ex-prisoner of war, delivering actionable insights for you to navigate uncertainties and thrive. Pay 3,155,215 Naira by March 15th for your spot and enrich your leadership skills in resilience, innovation, and sustainable growth. Apply now via +44 7425 883 791 or exec@texam.co.uk. It's a strategic opportunity to win. Texam, insights that inspire, actions that change the world.
With Glovo, you order anything you want, and when you receive it, you celebrate with your whole body. Because when that tasty grilled chicken is here, the weekend starts. The ingredients for your favorite recipe just in time. And when the cake arrives, the party is on. Because receiving anything on Global deserves a dance. Download the app, order anything you want, and track it minute by minute until it arrives. Global, order anything, we deliver in minutes.
The President and Deputy President of the Senate being welcomed to the State House by President Bola Tinubu. They're here for a short ceremony involving a significant bill. Also present is the Chief of Staff to the President, the Minister and Minister of State for Education, the Minister of State for Youth, the President of the National Association of Nigerian Students, other government officials and aides to the President. It is in time for the signing of the Students' Loan Bill 2024, which repeals the act passed in 2023. It was a short ceremony. Afterwards, the President emphasized the importance of education in the fight against poverty.
Education is the tool to fight against poverty effectively. We are determined to ensure education is given the proper attention necessary for the country, including skill development programs. This is to ensure that no one, no matter how poor their background is excluded from quality education and opportunity to build their future.
In the previous act, some problems were identified and addressed in this act. The changes include the Nigerian Education Loan Fund is now a corporate body with a board of directors, a chairman, secretary, and members drawn from the relevant ministries, regulatory bodies, and participating agencies. The removal of the family income threshold so Nigerian students can apply for these loans and accept responsibility for repayment according to the fund's guidelines. The removal of the guarantor requirement so that students can apply for and receive loans subject to application and identity verification guidelines as provided by the fund, amongst other changes. The Minister of Education and the NANS President speak on the significance of the event.
Now the days when students will be struggling to sponsor themselves in their various educational endeavors is over, both at the tertiary and those who are seeking skills, who are seeking to be skilled, to be empowered, to move on with their lives. So it's a very great day for the country.
We will see Mr. President's commitment to the development of education. And today, the entire education system is happy. The Nigerian students particularly are happy. Our parents are happy that, yes, in Nigeria, even the children of the poor can have access to quality education. We see Mr. President's commitment and the signing of the bill today. It shows that Mr. President is a father of modern education in Nigeria, and the initiator of this bill is a hero of education.
What is left now will be to see the first students that will benefit from these loan scheme. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
All right, so that's what we're talking about here this morning. Dr. Tanko Sununu, Minister of State for Education, joins us this morning. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, it's well intended, no doubt, to ensure that students don't have this burden and things are sorted. But of course, if you go down memory lane, historically, you see some of the challenges. I know that the report also talked about some of the areas that there were concerns that have been addressed. So talk us through this particular incident, or this signing now, and this law, why everyone, government thinks that this time that this will work.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And first of all, let me start by thanking Mr. President for being so proactive to renew the hope of Nigerians in education. Because if we have our hope restored in education, it means the country is moving forward, because he has already mentioned it. It's a way to fight poverty, and it's also the key ingredient necessary for local, national, and international development. And therefore, it is a good omen that the access, which has been restricted, is being widened now. Well, the issue of, if you look at what, to summarize, the Act of 2023, just one key word that made it very, very difficult to implement. It is highly restrictive, because the aim there is only for tuition fee. And when you apply that, if you use that act, it means any candidate in a federal institution will benefit from it, because we don't pay students in tertiary institution owned by the federal government don't pay tuition fee. It means only few that, even those who are studying in their own states of origin, they don't pay tuition fee. It's only if you decide to go across border of your state to another state and then enroll yourself in state institution that you now be asked to pay the tuition fee. So the whole aim, it will only address that issue. And it means that less than 5% of Nigerian students can benefit from it. So, and so many outcry, and President listened to that. And luckily for us, there is a very good alignment between National Assembly and the Executive. And within the shortest possible time, all those bottlenecks were addressed. And then President assented to the bill, and we now have an act of 2004, which is highly commendable, and it's also have widened the access. And then the other key issue that is also addressed in the current bill is, apart from the funding itself, the applications. Initially, it was restricted only for those who pursue character, knowledge to get their qualification. But now, the President said, no, our education was also added skill as a major value to our education. And now, if we had sponsored people only to get educated without adding it with necessary skill, we are not helping the nation.
But technical education.
Yes, skill in terms of vocational education, and then skill acquisition centers that will be registered. And for the institutions, the law says, the act says, federal and state government public institutions. But because there are so many limitations, and we have a lot of entrepreneurs right now who have their own institutions, they are providing skills. The bill also addresses that. Those who are registered, if you go there to acquire skill, you are also entitled to be a beneficiary of the law.
In terms of sustainability, I know there's also that talk about us learning from countries that already practice this to ensure that we learn from their mistakes and make ours work. So what is the thinking behind ours? Because, I mean, some of those countries, too, we see that a lot of debt forgiveness because, I mean, as thriving, in quotes, as the economies are, they still have challenges paying back all of those. So what's the difference? What would
the difference here in terms of sustainability is the concept itself. Unlike many other programs like SHOPI and many other programs of the federal government that have gone and go without a sustainability plan, this is as a result of act of National Assembly. And by implication is that it can never be thrown away except by repeal of the National Assembly. So being a product of the Act of National Assembly, give us assurance that it has come to stay, and it has also a perpetuality in nature. That is one. And two, there are so many funding measures that have been introduced by law to ensure that we have constant inflow of the fund, money to the fund. One, we have 1% tax collected by federal inland revenue that is due to federal government as a component of that fund. There is also another component that large sum can be appropriated for the same purposes. And also there is another component that says President on his own can also approve certain amount that can also go to the fund. This can be sourced from service-wide board, from many other sources that President deem it necessary to further reimburse the board. And it also says that there is also grant that will also be accrued. And it has also given the chance to the fund to also invest through a profit-making venture. And whatever they have invested also in trying to get an interest, that money will not be taxed.
Whatever who invests? Companies?
The fund can invest into a business if they have so much excess fund. So they can go into a business that will fetch them money. And then whatever proceed that is coming in terms of investment, it's a body of corporate existence.
So, I mean, not that one is being skeptical, but just to ensure that all those loopholes are plugged. If you're asking them to go ahead and invest those funding,
that is the prohibition of the act.
That they can go ahead and...
Yes, they can invest. They can invest in a profit-making venture. And through the approval of the president, they can invest. You understand? That's another source. Because if you have 3 trillion, for example, and you think that if you invest in the next 5 years, you get 2-3 months, you can get back your money and then get much profit.
I wish I were not giving opportunity for people.
That is the provision. No, it is going to be guided. There are other measures that are within the act itself.
Because even those students who are already were on scholarships, the complaint we get from them when they travel, or some of these agencies invest their funds, they don't get to get any of those funds.
You see, for scholarship, there is nothing like investment of scholarship. Yeah, this thing.
But
the complaint you are getting. No, not the complaint you are getting. It's, even I was at Arise TV, was it yesterday or the day before, and I'll explain it. What happened was the budget was done in Naira, but the payment of sustainability allowance is done in dollars. And we budgeted what will take us from January to December. But because of the fluctuation of the currency and the valuation of Naira, it happens that the money that we have budgeted that will take us to December ended up August. So we are short of that, and we are processing that, and I am sure our president will graciously approve that as a father so that they can also be paid. But for what they are going to receive now in the budget is already provided for from January to December.
Just so we can address a few things, Honorable Minister, a few questions that Nigerians have about these student loans, just so we can clarify. And you just mentioned one right now, the idea that the fund can be invested in a profit-making venture. Isn't that risky? In the sense that
you see, all
investments are risky. No one wants to hear a situation where they'll say, "Oh, we invested and we lost the money." So and so.
But if you look at it, there are a lot of check and balances within the act itself. For example, some of the check and balances is that every year expenditure, including what they are going to invest, will be passed to Mr. President. Yes, will be passed to Mr. President through the minister responsible. And who is that minister responsible? The act in its definition of minister, it says minister responsible for education.
Okay, so let's...
it has to be vetted.
But yeah, we understand that. But I think the point is, yes, those processes and procedure before the investment can be there.
Yes.
But it doesn't invalidate the fact that an investment is a risk that you're taking.
Investment,
so if you do invest...
It is clear. It is clear. It says in profit-making.
Of course, you can believe something is profit-making, but it doesn't make you profit.
It is going to be
a risk.
That's why there is risk, but that's why it says that there are procedures. The board will have to identify where the investment is going to be. They have to deliberate on that. Minister of Education would also come and review. And then, if it's found this thing, based on the report received, then the ministry will now forward it to the president for his approval. And the president also have a think tank of so many economic advisors and so many financial, and finance will also make their inputs. Finance is also a member of the board.
I want you to be able to also talk about something else that people are worried about when it comes to student loans.
Yes.
And Chamberlain had made mention of it. You know, we're basically looking at something that we've seen happen around the world.
Yes.
But we've also seen the downside of it.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, well, where people are saying they are unable to pay up their loans, people are still paying up their student loans in old age and things like that. In the Nigerian context, now the concept of the student loan is basically so no one is, excluded from quality education. And Mr. President said that when they signed this, everybody should have access. And it's not forced on you. You apply for it. But our dynamic is a little different. Some people may worry. You get this student loan, you're able to get a proper education, that is good. What happens when you're not able to get a job to pay back this money?
No, you see, there are issues when you come to payments. That's classified the issue into two. Those who can afford and those who cannot afford. for those who can afford, the loan says that as a condition, if a body is going to employ any individual, must communicate to the board, to the fund, whether the graduate they are going to employ has something that is owing the fund. If that is this thing, they have to also start remitting 10% of the gross salary of the particular candidate until he has finished paying.
That's if he gets a job.
Yes, I'm coming now. I mentioned it too.
Okay.
I'm coming this thing.
Okay.
Now, in the event where the person is employed, but he lied to the board that he's not employed, and he came to the notice because he wants default payment that he's receiving. Outrightly, he's liable, and on conviction, he will be jailed for 3 years. And then for the company or the individual company or corporate organizations that employ such a candidate and refuse to disclose or remit what is due to the loan, to the fund, that is, they are also liable to payment on conviction 2 million naira or an imprisonment of 1 year or both. Now, that's the thing. Now, for somebody who completely is not working and he's not receiving income from anywhere, he's now going to have an affidavit and then present to the board the situation that he cannot pay. And then the board will review and get reply to him. Now, if they are satisfied, that's okay. But in the event that he's also, this and I've mentioned it, because he wants to circumvent, he has a personal income which is capable enough to pay the loan, then he will also be, on conviction, he's liable to 3 years imprisonment. So these are all check and balances that are there. You understand? And the other issue is that if he default pay, in the event, but eventually he's going to study another, to go higher up in terms of his education, he has automatically disqualified for himself from further benefiting from the loan.
That is,
unlike before.
If he doesn't write that he doesn't have, or he or she doesn't have a job to pay.
Yes.
And if he elapses for how long, 2, 3 years?
Yes.
And he still cannot pay?
Yes.
And wants to go to school again?
Yes, he defaulted.
No, but he said he had written.
No, but for the person that has written, already we said that it will be considered.
Okay.
And then the board will waive it for him after reviewing all his documents and the affidavit he has sworn to.
Is there a timeline that this board has to respond to all these messages?
The timeline is within 2 years. You have to communicate. After NYSC,
I mean, after they write the board.
Yeah.
In order for them not to be subjected to the usual bureaucracy in public sector.
Yeah.
Is there a timeline so that they can respond real quick?
That is left to the guideline that is going to be developed by the board, by the fund, because the law on its own also is the purpose of law is to provide what you can derive a policy and guidelines out of it. Because the board cannot address all issues, or the act cannot address all issues. So it makes an opening that the board, that opening can be covered by the guideline of the board. For example, how much are we going to give each candidate? How much are we going to give into those who are going for skill acquisition? Are those in university will receive similar amount to those in polytechnic? All those cannot be addressed in the act. So the board will have to sit down and develop a guideline on how to apply, how to access, how to do this thing. But there are some key issues that are addressed in terms of how to access it and also how to repair it, and then failure to, when will you be communicated? If you, for example, if you apply, the board says the institution and the candidate, the act says the institution and the candidate that applied for the fund must receive feedback from the board within 1 month, within 30 days. And it says that you also disbursement after they have approved it must also done within 30 days. But how much is going to be disbursed? It's left to the guideline that will come out and said for university student, it's so, and for polytechnic, it's so. For those who are going to skill acquisition center, is this going to be determined by the level of the skill they want to acquire? For example, if I want to acquire software skill, how many months will it take me? I want to acquire how to couple, as an auto mechanic, I want to, how to couple a car, how long will it take me and how much do I need? That is also left to the guideline. So that the bulkiness of the of the act itself will not be too much handled.
So if I was living in Jajimaji and I wanted, maybe I want to go to a college of education, when I apply for this loan, what does it cover? What am I asking for exactly?
Yes, that's what I said. I mentioned earlier that what major necessitation for the review is restriction to tuition fee. Okay. But as today, it has been widening.
So what does it cover now?
It covers one, the tuition, because you cannot exclude tuition, because I mentioned that in some states, if you go across the border and go to another state institution, you are going to pay tuition. So it's also there. It is also paid charges. There are charges that are due to institutions that are not tuition. For example, ID card charges, bed space fee, medical expenditure, all others. You know, they are charges and fees, which are due to the institution. You don't need tuition. You can pay all the charges of the university, but you don't have what can sustain you as a student remain. That is also covered in the law. So when it comes to payment, for what is going to be used by the student, sustaining himself will be paid directly.
Like feeding?
To the student. Yes, feeding. That's sustainability, feeding, transportation, because some may be off campus. They need transportation to go, so it will be paid directly to the student. But for what is due to the state, to the institutions, that will go directly to the institution. And that's why the board will notify both the candidate and the selected institution. That's also apply and for this purpose, and this will be remitted to you for the student.
What's the thinking of government? For instance, if people get this loan, because, I mean, in character and learning, that's what they expect people to, part of what the constitution to get your bachelor's. But we also see people get in there and all sorts of things happen. Cultism, I don't graduate for some reason, I'm rusticated. All those factors, do they matter at all?
Yes, they matter a lot, because the act also went on in another section just in terms of disqualifications for those who are distant. Some of the criteria that we use to be disqualify somebody is belonging to any cult group. Cultism is addiction. If one is found wanting and handling in drugs, engagement in drugs, is also going to be disqualified. In fact, even examination malpractice, in terms of plagiarism and what have you, you understand, going in with your preformed and pre-answered questions with your laptop or your palm top and copying it directly on your code, it's also another way of disqualifications.
Yeah, but does that mean that the board will not just rely on the first reports from wherever? Would they have an independent team to actually verify the report that has come through?
You see, what we are not treating government in isolation. Government is a collaboration. So it's an inter-collaboration, it's a collaborative agency. And that's why if you look at the composition of board members, there are representations from the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, NUC, National College of Education Commission, National Board of Technical Education, and these are the major additions. And then there is also even private investor, because we said skill is there. You understand? They are also in the board. We also have representatives from the Ministry of Education, Finance, and many other agencies. And all this so that they can come into collaborations. And then definitely, because they are coming from different regulatory body, and it's all the institutions themselves, we have representation from the university. And even the students themselves, we also have a representation from the student union government, one person at least. So they are in the board. All those put together will do the necessary things in tracking how the fund will be utilized. And definitely, I'm sure, even in the guideline, they have to receive input from the institution when you apply. You understand? And then the act also stipulated in one portion that must also be even biometric capturing. And you have to give your personal detail and data, irrespective of the data protection act. But this act also said that you are, because without all those biometric and data from the schools, you may not know who belongs to cultism, who is into drugs, and many other issues. You understand? And then you have to know that even this, right now we have so many committees. We just inaugurated a committee against social biases in the state, in our tertiary institution. ably headed by Major General Kazaure, I think the former DG of NYSC. They are working hard. And then very soon we are going to develop a policy guideline in the ministry. Let's say right now, go to some private institution, go to Nile, go to base university. Doping test is part of their admission criteria. Initially, they do it in private institution, but now they even develop their own laboratory, ensure that you don't have trace of any drug in your blood before.
Do you think we should do that too in government before people get into government?
I'm just saying that we have. You see,
I know.
Education is part of evolution.
Yeah, it's
exactly. Evolution.
Yeah, government.
We are going to definitely with what we have. We have to look at it critically.
Yeah, governance is part of evolution too. I mean, shouldn't we have, if we have it in our schools, shouldn't we have it in governments?
Yeah, we should.
Let's be sure that those who we are pointing to.
So these are the considerations that we are designing, and that's why we have gone ahead to inaugurate that committee, and then we also have our own guidelines too. So. I just want to say that the whole issue is not in isolation.
All right.
So all the issues that you can think, you see the last 3 months, that bottleneck that we had is a good omen to Nigeria and Nigerians, because it gives us the time and avenue to critically think out, how can we employ so many measures to protect defrauding of the fund, to protect people who will use and misuse the fund, just as you mentioned in social biases, not just you collect the distance today and you go and employ your distance and then you go into a party session and this thing. So, and also check and balances. Just by merely somebody has been found implicated in drug and is denied access to the loan will be a deterrent to those who want to. This.
I mean, it won't be a bad idea. Doping test in governance. Ayo.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Well, the question that I would like to ask is one that a number of people may have been thinking about as well. Honorable Minister, good to see you again. There are those who are wondering, first of all, how does this play with state universities? How does this play with private universities as well? How will it, usually the challenge is always in execution, operation of these laws and policies. How will this law play with state universities and with private universities?
Well, if you look at the opening of that bill, it is said in terms of the ability to access the fund. And I mentioned it earlier, for those who are in federal and state tertiary institutions, and for those who are also in registered skills and vocational centers. So for now, the law is silent and it has not mentioned anything about private institutions. And this is probably, you know, the whole thing is about access. And the access in Nigeria and anywhere globally, it has to do with financial status of an individual. And
that question has been, my apologies. My apologies if you can hear me. I think the question has been answered, you know, from what you have said. The reason I asked the question is because there is a reason. There's those who decide or opt for private universities have their arguments. One of the arguments has also been something a federal minister has mentioned before: employability of graduates from public universities in Nigeria. So there are those who are wondering whether or not the curriculum that is going to produce the graduates that will come out of those universities through the loans that are being given to them will be employable, and that whether the learning they're going to get will still be relevant by the time they are out of school. There are those who believe that many of the curriculum we teach our students with are outdated already. There are those who are wondering that why should a computer science student not even have a computer to use in his or her learning in school? So those are the questions. That's the reason that I asked that question, whether or not those apply. So those apply to private universities. So are we doing anything to ensure that the learning for which the students are going to be indebted while they are learning will be relevant by the time they are out of school and they have to start paying the debts?
Okay, let me say, as far as tertiary level is concerned, the issue of curriculum has been addressed. And there is an updated curriculum which was provided for by national university commissions and other regulatory bodies of the tertiary education. And then it says, and it was done in about 30, a ratio of 7:3, in the sense that the National University Commission provides 70% of the curriculum, and then 30% is provided for by the tertiary institution, the university, so that they can address their local peculiarities. That's this thing. But then the other curriculum down the level from basic to secondary school, we are working on that, and very soon we'll this thing. We are also, as stakeholders in the ministry, we have agreed quite all right. This is not time that we start teaching A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, because we do see a situation whereby even our own children in nursery and some in primary school are IAI compliant. Most of this, what do you call it, these video games, they are all AI application. You see a child of 3 or 4 years playing with video games. Is that the child now that you take school? And most of us, our children, 7, 6 years, when we have problem with our smartphones, all you need, you call your son, well, please, what is the problem? In a few seconds, he will just say, Baba, it has been restored. So is that the child that you are not going to put in class and start saying A for ball, B for C? No, we are going to retard his progress. And that's why right now, even at the basic level, early childhood care and education, we are reviewing the curriculum so that it can suit the period we find ourselves, and we are extending that to virtually all levels. So,
is there a way also, my apologies, Minister, is there a plan, just 1 second if you can hear me, is there a plan to, because we are talking, for instance, now about apprenticeship, about entrepreneurship. We're talking about creating stuff for Nigerians, by Nigerians. There are a host of young people who have already ventured into these areas. Those who convert cars into electric cars, those who produce various kinds of things. Some of them produce robots. We heard of a Nigerian that produced an airplane, battery-powered airplane, and all those things. So is there a plan to encourage their entrepreneurship when they leave school, sometimes even while they are still in school? They come up with some of these things, and all we hear, the next thing we hear is that, you know, senators are buying vehicles from outside of Nigeria and importing them. Is there a way that the federal government is saying, we're going to take stock, we're going to take ownership of your inventions that come from the things you produce as a result of being students in Nigeria? Is there such a plan so that the students themselves can be encouraged and say, I can take the risk of taking this loan because I know that the federal government is willing to buy whatever I produce?
Okay, thank you for this question. It's very, very vital. Let me say for the entrepreneurs, this act provides a very good avenue for them. All you need to do, get your place well established, and then you register as an entrepreneur providing center so that students can go there and access your skills. And you will be paid. The loan that is given to them will either be paid to you for the services you are giving them or for what they are going to do there. So it means that for now, entrepreneurs, this is their time. Mr. President is saying that, look, we require your services, and that's why we said you are also included, just like any other institution, to benefit from Student Loan Act through scaling the skills of Nigeria. That is one. Yes, for innovation, I want to tell you that that has also been addressed by the Federal Ministry of Education. And if you recall, TED Fund has been providing skills, and it's in partnership with Innovate 8 here in Abuja. I was there when we have been having University Technology Expo. We have that of College of Education and that of Polytechnic. And we have seen a lot of innovations and a lot in display. Now, what are we moving? Where are we moving now? We are moving from the level of that expo. We have seen the capacities of university and polytechnic, what they can produce. Now, the TED Fund is now moving towards marketing of those innovations so that local manufacturers can come and get it patent licensed and then develop it together with those innovators or with the university that sponsors such a research in such a way that we can move into mass production. And then we are also, even yesterday, I had a meeting with the Nigerian Economic Summit in my office, and we have deliberated extensively. How are we going to look at and see how we can partner with captains of industries to rescue our economy through production or giving out graduates based on demands of this.
Honorable Minister, yeah, one of the things that will be very important to us, if you ask me, would be how we communicate these things to people. I'm grateful that work is going on in that regard, and I'm hoping that Nigerians would also get more information from your ministry. Just one more thing from me. You are well aware of the ancient Igbo apprenticeship model, something that, of course, I'm talking about skill acquisition now that the president is talking about. The Igbo apprenticeship model, for instance, has since been adopted by Harvard Business, you know, as a model of training and raising skills. Is this part of the thinking of government to scale that up across the nation? It is a model that's already been adopted by a foremost university in the world. Is this something that government is also thinking that could be factored into this student loan initiative?
That is our thinking. And you know, we also, when we came, and I made it clear, earlier in Nigeria, if you look at the policy of education, skills has a prominent space. But over the years, we have neglected it in such a way that even our polytechnics that are meant to provide for middle manpower that is skilled enough, debated and started running so many programs that is not even needed as far as the mandate is concerned. And we said, no, that must be changed. Ask any of your friend who is a polytechnic lecturer or a rector right now, you know that even the state fund intervention, we have so much done that in such a way that we have tried to make it to focus in intervention in terms of getting us the necessary workshops in the polytechnics that will provide the necessary skill. And then on that basic level, we have a project which is funded. It's a multinational funded project under the World Bank. We call it IDEA Project. The IDEA Project has a capacity of a grant of a loan of 100 million, and so far 30 million has been done. But when we came into office, we have to sit down with the World Bank, and we reviewed the project, and we realized that over the years, the intervention has done so much damage by not including skill into it. And what we are developing now is that we have given them a go-ahead to restructure the program in such a way that skill will take its necessary and then even before the advent of this, the addition of the skill in the Student Loan Act, we have given them directives that are part of the structured program. We are going to have what we call contractors. These are the entrepreneurs who have well-equipped workshops and laboratories that we can now use to train our basic students so that they can have this. And then we have during so hour, you have a learning skill, go to your skill acquiring institution and learn a lot. So we are doing more. And then even right now, if you look at the basic schools we are constructing, it must have at least 5 components: admin block, classes, laboratory, computer lab, and workshop. And now what we are doing is we are also going back, we have looked at it closely. If we do all that, we must address the teacher issue. And we have now gone on to address teacher issue. And even we are getting some intervention in terms of teacher training. I also, together with the minister, we hosted Japan, and they are doing much at that. And they are going to give, we are going to get support in terms of teacher upgrading, in terms of their quality and their skills.
I see Joshua saying that the student loan is welcome, but why is postgraduate studies exempted? But I think you answered that. It's not exempted, is it? Is postgraduate studies exempted?
They said university. Nobody said postgraduate is exempted.
So they're part of it.
But Joshua? Also, let me make it clear. This is in addition, what the president did is an addition to what we have right now. Because right now we also have a scholarship in place that addresses the issue of masters, issue of PhD, and then even the undergraduate. And that one is what? It's a grant. And right now I want Nigerians to please go. There's an advert out there. Those who are interested to have the scholarship grant as approved by Mr. President in the 2024 budget, please go do and apply.
All right. So there you go. That is some explanation about this act and the loans from Dr. Tanko Sunu, the Minister of State for Education. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and just have business is on the hour. Ladi will be taking us through that.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Well, good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you might be watching from. Let's get to the top stories that set your investment agenda now. First, with the global oil market, where prices extended gains today, headed for a second weekly gain, supported by geopolitical tensions in Europe and the Middle East concerns, and tightening supply at this time. And there you have it. Over $90 now. That's what we have for Brent crude, 0.5% jump, a big jump there we're seeing this morning. And we see the U.S. WTI crude, that version is also holding up well above that $80 a barrel level, 0.4%. And as it stands now, is definitely a weekly gain for both grades of oil in the global oil market at this time. Well, straight to the FX market now. We see the Naira continued its appreciation against the U.S. dollar on the official foreign exchange, reaching the highest of in about 3 months, 1,255 Naira, 7 kobo to the dollar, 0.6%. So we're seeing a strong first quarter performance, and we're seeing the second quarter also starting strong now for the Naira in the official window. According to the FMDQ data, the intraday high, that closed at 1,294 Naira to the dollar, while the intraday low, that was at 1,200 Naira to the dollar. Well, straight to the Nigerian equities market, it's maintained its bearish performance as sustained profit-taking activities in Tier 1 banks and MTN Nigeria. That was down 1.3%. That's brought the benchmark index down 103,736 points. We're seeing month-to-date performance negative 0.8%. Year-to-date returns, though, lower than the 40% that you were used to, now at 38.7%. There you have it, 103,000, going below that 104,000 points level, 0.43%. And we see 252 billion naira wiped out from the equity cap at 58.65 trillion. So we're seeing the second quarter for the NGX, that's the local growth, weak at this time, but we're seeing the Naira actually strong at this time to start, the second quarter of 2024. So those are the markets are looking to some company news now. We see Stanbic IBTC Bank, they've upgraded its digital banking platforms to make transactions and reconciliation processes seamless for business owners. The newly upgraded applications are the Stanbic Super App and the Enterprise Online 2.0 for business owners. Take a listen.
Ready for business. Stanbic IBTC Bank introduces the much-anticipated upgraded Stanbic IBTC Super App, a one-stop solution for all banking needs of entrepreneurs and business owners.
I would like to invite our special...
During the unveiling of the enhanced mobile app at the Stanbic IBTC Towers in Victoria Island, Lagos, the bank says it aims to simplify banking processes while putting power in the hands of its customers.
The enhanced Stanbic IBTC mobile app caters to businesses and represents a revolutionary all-in-one mobile application designed to deliver a seamless banking experience for our business clients. With our enhanced mobile app, our customers can conveniently access a wide array of banking services. They're able to manage their beneficiaries, initiate payments, and generate signed and stamped account statements and mix all within one single platform.
Stanbic IBTC also has Super App. And
at a fireside chat with the CEO of Nairametrics, the chief executive of Stanbic IBTC Bank, Wole Adeniyi, reels out some of the special features that can be accessed via the Super App for business owners.
On this Super App, you have insurance. On this Super App, you have pension. On this Super App, you have stockbroking. On this Super App, you have asset management. On this Super App, you have your bank. On this Super App, you have your wallet. So whatever your banking needs are, on this Super App, you have the solution. And what is it for business is that we have now put the power in the hand of the business to do their transactions on the go, on the app. So it's like putting your bank in your pocket.
Also introduced is the Enterprise Online, which is Stanbic IBTC's internet banking for businesses.
The Enterprise Online 2.0 is our internet banking solution for business.
Okay.
And it's the web version of the super app. So I would say it is for customers that have large screen. It's a large screen version. And people that want to work on their desktop, they want to work on their laptop, it gives them that capability.
By upgrading its digital banking platforms, Stanbic IBTC Super App for businesses and enterprise online, Stanbic IBTC Bank aims to provide a convenient and secure banking experience for business owners.
All right, as I said before, Nigeria's stock market has kicked off the first trading week of the second quarter with profit-taking. And we see the banking index has lost that 1,000-point level, now about 900-something points. Could investors be selling the banking stocks for the bank recapitalization announcements by the central bank? Well, let's find out. Joining us now is Mr. Akeredolu, Group Managing Director, AfriInvest, joining us right here in the studio. Great to have you.
Thank you. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning. So, I know your research team, you've been advocating for, banks to recapitalize, for a while now, and it's finally upon us.
Yes.
We have the numbers now. Talk to me about maintaining status quo. Would it really be that bad if the banks actually maintained, this capitalization that we currently have? Because everything seems okay.
Well, on the surface, but you have to remember, go back to 2004, when the Soludo-led central bank introduced banking consolidation. At the time, the minimum capital went from about 2 billion to 25 billion naira. And at the exchange rate of the time, that turned out to be about $200 million. Today, with the minimum capital for international banks at 50 billion and national at 25 billion, using the current exchange rates, it's obviously much smaller numbers we're talking about. You're talking like, $40 million and, $20 million in comparison. So the central bank's move to move the new capitalization to 500 billion for international banks at about 1,250, that's just about $400 million. And if you go to 200 billion for national licenses, that gives you just under $200 million. So that again underscores where the CBN is going, to show that the banks have the capacity, they have the solvency, and have the resilience to continue to support the Nigerian economy. The president has talked about moving the economy to a $1 trillion economy. Currently, our GDP is at $535 billion. So hopefully this new capitalization will be part of that impetus to get us to that direction.
So let's just take, for instance, now the Naira was maybe trading at about 500 Naira.
Yes.
The dollar at this time. Then we wouldn't really be talking about recapitalization then.
You could argue that, but the central bank has also come in and said, we are not going to be including retained earnings as part of your capitalization. And, there are all sorts of discussions around what is really contained in retained earnings. So if you extracted retained earnings and still use 500 Naira as an exchange rate instead of 1,250, you will still require some recapitalization nonetheless. And I think that vicariously, perhaps where the monetary policy authorities are going is to actually invite the private sector to join them in that battle to restore the Nigerian economy. Because if the banks are also looking for capital and the government is looking for capital, then everybody will be singing from the same hymn song, right?
Right.
Yes. You will not have discordant tunes.
Exactly, because we don't need that
exactly
at this time. But talk to me. We've seen the short-term gains, from this process. But talk to me about the long-term gains, for the Nigerian economy.
I think that when you look at where we are today, we've gone through 8 years of. Okay, let me not go back.
Okay.
But where we are today, we are the best thing is to say we're probably recovering from trauma as an economy, and the economic management team have a lot of work cut out for them, both on the fiscal side as well as on the monetary side. And the central bank is doing a yeoman's job trying to control the excesses of the former central bank, as you all know, and so that's part of that direction. But the catalyst will be what then translates into the economy, into the real sector, And you know, the banks act as a sort of an engine to lubricate the economy. Today, if you look at the size of the capital markets, $46 billion, when you look at, the market capitalization, sort of about 58 trillion naira or something like that as of yesterday. If you think of the economies we want to compare ourselves to, like an Indonesia or Mexico, the economies in terms of GDP are $1.3 trillion, $1.4 trillion, and we have $535 billion GDP. We have to be able to move these banks forward so the banks then have the capacity to lend again to the real sector. Because if you look at what has happened to the economy, just because of the movement in interest rates, many companies are suffering. MTN, for example, has reported negative shareholders' funds.
Yeah, we're already seeing it.
Yes, exactly, and that's a major company, so that has an impact. So if those kind of big companies are suffering, you can imagine what's happening to the smaller sectors. But when you have ambitions to drive the economy, then who better than the commercial banks to help you get to that target? That is really why the recapitalization is important.
Now, we still have CRR at about 45%.
Correct.
So I'm still wondering, will the bank still have enough to give out after recapitalization process?
That's important, but we have some short-term problems where the CRR is trying to solve. But as you get more stability in the system, you can see that even coming in from the point of view of the exchange rate direction. Clearly, we are of the view that perhaps by the middle of the year, we'll probably be approaching 1,000 naira to the dollar, and it could go below that, the way they're going, because there's a Eurobond transaction planned for later in the year, and that also will create more support. And as some of the bigger banks begin to show momentum in their capacity to attract capital, particularly foreign capital, then that again gives more confidence into the economy. And that stability then allows you to then focus on the longer term issue, which is coming from the fiscal policy side. How do we build that platform for growth? Yeah,
because we're aiming for that $1 trillion economy going forward. But talking about FX, we cannot ignore FX, at this time. We've seen the Naira starting off the second quarter of 2024. Quite strong.
Correct.
But are we out of the woods yet, when it comes to, the Naira this time? Because some say it's because demand for dollar is not as much in this season, but who knows?
No, well, the signals are positive. Oil production is, up. It's sort of come from about 1,200 barrels per day, trickling up towards now 1.5 million barrels a day.
Right.
1.2 million barrels to 1.5 million. So that helps because, oil is still the main supplier of our foreign exchange. So that's important. We've also seen, inflows, especially from the foreign portfolio investor side, who've come in to take advantage of our very high yields, because MPR has gone up to 24.75%. So the domestic short-term yield environment is very attractive. So for an investor who is seeing that, the Naira is appreciating, I can come in for a short term and get 20+%. And by the time I'm exiting, I also have an appreciation in the Naira. There's a double effect. So that will continue to support. So when you say, are we out of the woods yet? I sort of believe that unless something extraordinary happens on the fiscal side, the momentum of progress towards an appreciating Naira will probably continue for the next few months.
Right, because it's looking really strong,
yes.
And hopefully there's no headwind, somewhere.
In fact, this morning, the irony is this morning that the parallel market rate is below the official rate.
Quite incredible.
It's incredible. So I was looking at some data. I thought, am I reading this upside down? Because I'm seeing the official at about 1,260 and parallel market at 1,200. And I had to check again, and yes, it convinced me. That's what is happening.
Because so much stability,
there's liquidity at that retail end now.
To most of us right now, we've been used to a lot of instability, in the FX market. But let's look at the domestic borrowing, as you did mention. We're definitely seeing a lot now when it comes to the T-bills and government bonds. We're seeing a lot of action in the fixed income market.
Correct.
For the first quarter alone, we've seen the government raised about 1.8. They're planning to raise 1.8 trillion for the second quarter.
Okay.
We've done the first quarter. Really strong movement there. A lot of borrowing we're seeing, on the domestic front. But we still have a debt problem. We
have a debt problem.
Even though we prefer it to be local, but it can still be a problem.
It is, when we look at all the parameters, in terms of debt to GDP, debt service to revenue, the parameters we are essentially at the threshold we've set for ourselves or have exceeded. But if we are hoping to expand the economy, the problem with debt is not really whether you have a lot, but whether you have the capacity to service it. So if, for example, you take a company that had a turnover of 10 billion and profit of 5 billion, and the banks say, I can lend you 5 times your profit, that comes to 25 billion. So the direction of growth for the company would be to say, let me move my turnover to 50 billion and profit of 25. And if you lend me 5 times my profit, I'll be at 125 billion. Clearly, 125 billion is a whole lot larger than 25 billion in terms of debt, but your capacity to service it is still the same. That is where the economic management team is hopefully pushing us in that direction. But I think in the short term, what will happen is that we'll probably exceed all our sort of debt control measures in terms of the size of debt relative to the Fiscal Responsibility Act, for example, or if you say debt service to revenue, where should that be? Total debt itself, I mean, I think I saw the last number was at 97 trillion, and looking at the way we are going, we might even overshoot what we have put in the budget for the year. And that will mean that we may have to go to the National Assembly and ask for a supplemental budget to make up for the additional increase in debt. Hopefully, that is all designed to inject money into the real sector, which is the engine that drives the economy. Note that subsidies are being removed in all areas, everywhere. So you see your tariff is now looking to be more realistic. But allowing for the removal of subsidies in the power sector, that should allow investment to come into the power sector. Right. We're on the advisory side talking to some generating companies, and they are quite excited about it because clearly, if you look at the exchange rate and the cost of bringing in new power plants, the numbers never worked. But this new subsidy, these new tariff levels will give them more comfort and more confidence.
Yeah, and definitely we hope we get more supply. And hopefully, the average consumer has been through a lot, at this time.
The challenge is, for the ordinary person, it is a lot to ask for.
Too much.
I mean, if you're at the minimum wage, I think it's still 30,000 naira. I'm sorry, but it is really quite painful.
Quite painful.
So I have not seen the details, but the government really needs to make sure that there's some support at a very low level in terms of how people get some palliatives to survive through the storm until the economic engine begins to kind of kick in properly.
Yeah, definitely quite a storm at this time. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us, Mr. Akeredolu, Group Managing Director.
My pleasure.
It was great having you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, so let's take the conversation even further now. And you did hear Mr. Chioke there talking about the new tariffs right now for the almighty Band A. Well, I guess it's all about bands right now, especially the hike with Band A tariffs in Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission approving an increase in the rates paid per kilowatt hour of electricity from about 66 naira to 225 naira for the various distribution companies in the country. Well, joining us now is Mr. Henry Amadigo. He's an energy consultant. Join us from our Abuja studio. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. So we're seeing the NERC saying that the revision of electricity tariffs is set to deliver about 52% cut in monthly subsidy expenses, by the federal government. Also reduce the number of grid collapses that we have in the country. But let's count the costs right now. Definitely, the consumer is strained at this time, the average consumer. Even the manufacturers are complaining at this time. Help us break it down, for you. How are you seeing this hike at this point?
Okay, there are two things about it. There's the context and the need for the reforms, and then there is the impact of the reforms. In the last 8 years, we've had MITO, which have implemented, but for many reasons, political, MITO wasn't implemented properly. So the price of generation and distribution and transmission was less than the cost people were paying for it. The tariffs weren't market reflective. Now, people have a perception about energy goods, which includes petrol, diesel, and power. It's both a public good, but also a market good. You want people to invest in the sector. You need to make the tariffs price reflective. Your guest that was around before me, the MD of Africa invested something similar, which same thing I would say. The government needed to ensure that we could bring in investors into that sector. There are legacy issues. There are issues around debts. There are issues around poor investments. There are issues around gas supply. There are issues around last mile support infrastructure. But it's a market, and there's a value chain attached to it. I can only put money to an industry where I think I'll get a return on my money. But there's also the fact, as you've said correctly, those that need to be protected, the vulnerable. So for me, I'm impacted as a Band A person. It affects my income. But I also know it's cheaper to have public electricity than run on diesel or generator. Diesel, if you run on diesel now in Nigeria, an average cost of diesel per kilowatt is about 675, 680 naira. Petrol is about 430, 425. So it's still cheaper for the average person. And then there's a joking we've had about Nigeria. Every time you go outside Nigeria, they say, oh, Africa's biggest economy run on generators. It's not sustainable. The issue around climate change as well. The more diesel they use, the more impact it has on the environment. But the key issue is this. Tariffs right now are lower than the cost of production. You have a need for a lot of investments. I heard the MD of EGMI talking yesterday and saying out of the units, only 6 are operational, no gas. Gas has moved from $2.18 to $2.44 now. All this with the diversion of the currency makes the need for the tariff adjustment. And I think what government has done, I sat down in a retreat about 3-4 months ago, 5 months ago on power, where a lot of producers, Gencos, were talking about their inability to sustain the investments, the debts owed them. Subsidies on power right now would, if we didn't change the band, would be about 4 trillion annually. We have an economy that is struggling for many reasons. We've had the diversion of the currency. So that's the context of the need for the tariff adjustments. Now, does it mean that it's easy for anybody? Certainly not. We've had a lot of issues this year. We've had issues around the currency, which is getting steadier. We've had issues around adjustments in petrol, which again, subsidy has crept back, gently back again. So there are wider issues around the consumer. And like you said earlier on, minimum wage is still as low as it is. But those in minimum wage will not be in a Band A category. Right. They shouldn't actually be living there. It shouldn't be earning 30,000. I'll be living in a Band A environment, really. It shouldn't be in that area. There's still issues the NERC has to deal with as well. Right. There's substantial power theft. There's what's around transmission, there are drops and everything. So there's so many issues to unpack.
All right, talk to me about other countries at this time, because right here we have the band plays right now. In other climes or neighboring countries in Africa, why don't we just have one band that serves everybody, and it's somewhat affordable? Because in other countries I don't really hear about band A, band B, D and C and all the rest. So what do you think about this?
Well, I'm certain that every country has its own context for operating reforms. Like I said earlier on, power is both a market-driven tool, good, and also a public good. You have to protect the vulnerable in society. And that's the reason why the band categorization was there. And let me give an instance. My mom lives in Ibadan. My mom gets, at best, an hour a week. 1 hour a week at best. That's what Ibadan Disco gives to her. She pays 2,000 a month. That's what they all pay. It's fixed. Every month they put 2,000 naira for power, but then you get 1 hour a week, or at best maybe 1.5 hours a week. Now they don't get power, so they don't pay for what they don't use. They don't have meters. Now I live in an area where if there's sufficient gas, if there is sufficient supply, I get up to 18 to 19 hours at the best of times, and at the worst of times it can drop very bad as well. But I spent a huge amount of money on diesel in the last 1 month because it was hot and we had to survive. And for me, it is unbearable to buy diesel at 1,350. Now, a Band C, D person would not have a diesel generator. We'll probably have a pass-my-neighbor generator, which will not carry things like ACs, which will not carry things like a freezer and a fridge and others. So whenever you're planning for economic activities, you must think care of the vulnerable society. And I think that's what the government has done through NERC, in terms of thinking, okay, if we want to make an adjustment, but we have to protect the very vulnerable. Those who get 2, 3, 4 hours of power a day, live on that. Those who get 11 hours, live on that. So I think right now, we in Band A are paying somewhat a cost-effective tariff. Now, what should have happened, which never happens in Nigeria, is the policy was a multi-year tariff order, which should have been on an annual basis. I remember that when Jonathan was living in 2013-14, there was a need for a review. It didn't happen. Mr. Barry, General Barry came in. It happened once, I think, or twice. So there's been lack of doing the right thing. And then, like everything, when you not do it, everybody's impacted poorly. I mean, it's not easy on anybody. I understand what man says it's going to affect them. But I also know that for every producer, you can't compare the cost of diesel to the cost of power from public. Okay. It's not the same thing. The price differential is over 300, 400 naira. Yeah.
All right. I'm hoping that, at some point we all get to be on the same band and, have affordable, electricity going forward, because I believe even the vulnerable need as much, power and, should be able to, afford it going forward. But that's much we can take at this time. We've run out of time. Thank you so much for coming on, Mr. Henry Akeredolu, energy consultant. It was great having your perspective today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. All right, so that's it from me on Business Morning. That's how your money is looking. We'll definitely be looking out for the close. That's for the local boss today. Let's see if Friday can give us the first green close in the second quarter of 2024. I'll hand things back over to the Sunrise Daily team.
All right, welcome back. Yes, indeed, Mr. Akeredolu joins us. He is the Secretary Network for Electricity Consumers Advocacy of Nigeria. Good morning, and thank you for coming on this morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, what kind of advocacy could be going on now, ever since this announcement for Band A members, which they say has taken immediate effect ever since the announcement yesterday?
Well, what kind of advocacy? What advocacy are we? Are we going to tell Nigerians not to? The government has already made up its mind. Before this time, we saw it coming. We warned against it because of the implication it is going to have on the economy on Nigerians. See, we are not, so much against tariff increase. The problem we have is that we have a commission, a regulator, that is always churning out regulations and orders, but with no capacity to monitor implementation. No capacity.
Well, I asked the same gentleman yesterday, this same question.
Yeah.
What does the NERC have the capacity to ensure compliance? And he did say categorically, yes, they do.
Okay. I deal on facts. Recently, that was in 2020, 2021, the Commission came up with what is called service-based tariff.
That's a charter.
Based on the principle of the more electricity that is supplied to your business or household, the more you should pay. And now that led to the reclassification of electricity consumers into what is called tariff bands. Now, we have band A, and the service level, the commitment there by the distribution companies was that the consumers there will be supplied minimum of 20 hours a day. Yeah. To qualify to pay at that rate. Band B, I saw what they put there. It is not 16 hours, but 18 hours. Band B 18 hours. Band C, 12 hours. Band D, 8 hours. And band E, 4 hours. Now, we have conducted a study in some, particularly band A customers, and we discovered the sample we made in some states. We discovered that less than 5% of those in band A receive 20 hours. In fact, here in Abuja, I have it here. I have it here. We discovered that some customers for 11 months never had 18 hours of electricity supply, but they are on band A.
How did you measure it?
I mean, we have meters. The prepaid meters are smart meters, particularly the ND meters. If you have 50 outages in a day, the meter records it. So you can extract that information. You can extract that information.
You were extracting the information from people's meters?
Not without their consent.
Okay, with their consent?
Yeah, of course, yes.
Okay.
But there's nothing that you don't need to. There are softwares that you can access these meters and get that information without tampering with the meters. You understand? So you have a situation, a case of some hoteliers on band A. For 11 months, never had 18 hours. Why do you think the disco's revenues are rising? It is because they are collecting monies from Nigerians for power not supplied. Under MITO, multi-year tariff order that threw up SVT and even amended, they made provisions. Section 19 of that MITO and Section 13 and 14 of the amended MITO 2023-2024 states clearly that where there is failure on the part of the distribution company to deliver on the committed service level of 20 hours minimum, 16 hours minimum for band B, 12 hours band C, that there shall be an adjustment, retroactive adjustment of the said customers in that customer clusters to where they belong and compensated. But there was no provision on how to measure. Was it going to be the disco that we're going to measure? Was it the commission or the customer? So when we made noise about it, they came up with this regulation on compensation. And if you look at this document, nothing is said on how we are going to measure. You left it to the discos, not the consumers. The discos now say, okay, we did not supply electricity to you, Mr. Chamberlain, so we are sorry, we are going to come. Abba.
I mean, yesterday he said you can complain. You can say, I'm not getting the service.
How do you measure?
You know, he said as a consumer you can.
How do you measure? How do you measure? The question is, how do you measure? Is there a mechanism put in place by the commission on how they can measure? They are talking of going to feeders. The discos go to feeders. Do consumers know what a feeder is? Do consumers have access to feeders? Consumer, you're in your house, in your business, in your office, in your factory, and you are given electricity.
So you're saying this is all hogwash?
It is here. It is right here. That's why I brought it. So these are the problems we are having.
Because it's happening right now for the consumer to hear this, because since yesterday, people have been measuring their meters, you know, checking to see how many hours of electricity they have. If I'm paying 225 kilowatts per hour.
25 naira,
225 naira per kilowatt hour. If I'm paying that, you know, let me be able to measure it, and then so you're saying,
how do you measure? How do you measure?
I can count.
What is the mechanism? Are you going to sit in your house and don't go to work?
People have been doing that since yesterday.
If there are 25 outages a day, you'll be there to count the number of hours. How do you measure? How do you measure?
I mean, it's
how do the customers measure?
It's a valid question you've asked, you know, because even people who have very smart meters, the proportion is not as widespread as all of those in Band A who have to have this uniform platform and transparent measurement platform so that everybody's on the same page. Even the charter equally says the same thing. But now, in terms of the kinds of steps that we need to keep taking moving forward, because they keep talking about appropriate pricing. And we know that that conversation won't end with this increase. MITRE 2024 may be in place. 2025, 2026, this same matter will come up again. So now, what would you then suggest happen in terms of what we need to insist on that must be in place moving forward?
Thank you very much for that question. And I want to say pointedly that tariff increase, whether you call it cost-reflective tariff or what, is not, and I repeat, the silver bullet that is needed in the market. Why tariff increase? Why the question of cost reflectivity in the market is liquidity, right? But we are dancing around the problem. Our priorities are not being set right. Number one, what is the percentage of customers in that Band A that are metered? We have a huge metering gap.
This says about 15%.
We'll get to that. That is what they made it to. We will get to that. We are working on that. At least for Abuja Disco, last night I worked on that, and we got those about 40-something%. So forget about those figures that they're shooting at. The meter is the revenue tool, assurance tool in the business of electricity.
So we must be metered.
If we are metered, why do we have what we call revenue shortfalls that they are talking about, huge subsidy they are talking about? Why do we have it? Very high aggregate, technical, commercial, and collection losses. As high as what? 47, 49%. Which means for every 100 naira of electricity generated, transmitted, and distributed, you are losing 47, 49 naira. And you are recovering the balance. Now, we have countries. Let me not go to Europe. Let me not go to Asia. In Africa, Zambia, Kenya, South Africa. Take Zambia, for instance. To guarantee revenue in the electricity sector, the meter is paramount. If you meter 100% like that, as it is done in Zambia, their ATC and C is 13%.
I mean, I don't want us to lose the question that Chima.
I'm coming there.
What we're trying to find, what should we be insisting on? How you're stating what the problems are, which is good. But what should we be insisting on so that we can get justice? We can't allow it to continue.
That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
The problem, the solution to the liquidity crisis in the market is the huge metering gap of over 7 million unmetered customers. That leads to the inability of the distribution companies to do what? Collect revenue. You don't guarantee. You are not guaranteed the revenue that is coming. I bought energy for 50,000 naira 3 days ago, right? I have given AEDC 50,000 naira for services not yet. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So if you meter 100% like it's done in Zambia, 100% like it's done in Kenya, Kenya has 7% ATC and C losses. It reduces revenue loss and shoots up the revenue collection. You understand that? So we are talking, you can't generate until distribution notches higher than generation. Will continue running around. What do I mean? Until you can guarantee that what you generate, you can distribute and get their money. We are not going to get there. And what will help you do that is the meter.
Let's bring in our colleague Ayo. He's got questions for you too.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Mr. Bongad, you know, let me first of all take you back a little, if you don't mind. You said something about the NERC or the authorities, whichever it is, not being able to really measure the number of hours of electricity. But we had an official of the NERC here yesterday or the day before yesterday, telling us that indeed they do have a way of measuring the number of hours, some kind of smart system that they use in measuring the number of hours that go to the different bands as promised. Are you saying that that is not true?
Well, if he has said so, we want him to provide evidence. Let him publish the evidence. Because we are dealing with their own documents, the MITO that threw up service-based tariff. Section 19 of MITO 2020 or 2021 and Section 1314 of MITO 2023 stated clearly that where there is failure on the part of the utility company to deliver on committed service level, and upon confirmation by who? Not stated. Is it the NEC itself? Not stated. And it says, if it comes to NEC, and NEC verifies it, then NEC will order for what? A retroactive adjustment and compensation. They should mention one customer, the whole of Nigeria, since 2022, 2023, and now 2024, that they have measured his supply and asked for compensation. We don't need to go far. In our various communities, in our various homes, in our various locations across the country, would you thump your chest that you have been supplied 20 hours of electricity? The young man who just left here, he said in Ibadan, where the mother lives, he gets 1 hour in a week. 1 hour in a week.
Well, you know,
we shouldn't, it's not just coming to national television to speak grammar and say things that will, the practical things, the things that are real on ground is that Nigerians are not being supplied electricity based on the committed service level. What are the options?
Well, you know, interestingly, there's those who live around somewhere around Bashoro in the Semi-Bada that you talked about, who are supposed to be on Band C and should get at least 12 hours a day, said that they haven't had up to 10 hours in a whole month, and that it's been like that for at least 3 months. Now,
and the committed service level is 12 hours minimum in a day, and in a whole month, you don't have 12 hours. So what are we saying?
Well, Mr. Wogat, you know, the question now then would be, did this increase come to you as a shock? Because one of the arguments being put forward by NERC and others in the space is that the federal government will be saving something in the region of 1.14 trillion naira in electricity subsidy. Is it a surprise to you that the federal government wants to save money? Or is it the problem, is the challenge for you the timing, or what exactly is the issue with you that you have with this particular
there is subsidy in the real sense of the word. Why? Why should it be? If we are ready to do the needful, if the distribution companies that are the face of the industry, they have the capacity to distribute electricity, we have low rejection. You hear the GENCOs talking about captive load. We have what they call daily load, MITO daily load allocation. Is it all the distribution companies that are getting their daily allocation? No. Why? Because they lack the capacity to take this product to the consumers. Listen, it is not about Nigerians or no money in the market. It is because of the environment that is created where those that are saddled with the responsibility are only rent seekers or rent collectors. The same MITO approved what is called CAPEX, Performance Improvement CAPEX in 2021. Huge sums of monies were allocated. I challenged NEC to publish how these monies were spent by the discos. I challenged NEC to publish disco by disco how much the discos have invested in network distribution, network infrastructure.
And for you
under
then,
CAPEX,
my apologies.
Network CAPEX.
My apologies, Mr. Bunga. So the challenge you have is that the federal government shouldn't have raised the prices, but that the discos should have maximized their collection process. Because that's one of the issues or arguments some people have also brought out, that not everyone who should be metered is metered. Consequently, people are not able to, the discos are not able to generate enough revenue from the people to whom they are supplying electricity. So for you, what exactly is the issue here? Are you saying that it is wrong for the federal government to increase these hikes by and try to save 1.14 trillion naira? Or what exactly is your grouse with this project?
Fine. Sometime in November 2022, my humble self and a few others were invited to the World Bank, where we were told that the federal government was asking for additional funding of $3 billion for the power sector. And they gave us a breakdown of about 9 billion that has already spent. Who is tracking that money? Where has it gone to? What impact has he made in the sector? The problem in our the Nigerian electricity supply industry is not what these guys are making Nigerians to believe. And I repeat, it is not. What is the problem? Ability to tell Nigerians the truth of what is really going on in the sector. You have SVT that has now made discos to be posting huge revenue collections from the supply of darkness, distribution of darkness to Nigerians. So what should we do? If we are going to have a grant or a loan of 2 or 3 billion dollars, and you pump this money into metering and raise the metering level to at least 80–85%, the liquidity crisis would drop sharply, and the federal government wouldn't be wasting that amount of money. They tell you gas debt, legacy debt. Who has gone to verify those debts? Who has gone to verify those debts? They shouldn't draw a wool on our faces. We are not fools.
All right. So it's a conversation that we're going to have to keep at, and I'm sure that a lot of these measures are actually put in place so that, because after all, part of what we also did ask was, everybody's supposed to have power supply in the first place. What's the category of band? A, B, C, D, E? Supply electricity. These things should be addressed. And secondly, too, why do they have to also this gas infrastructure and supply in dollars? So what is it that, why is it a natural resource? Is there any benefit of it being a natural resource? All of those issues that we'll continue to highlight as we progress, such that the right things and right policies will be in place to ensure that the country thrives. We want to thank you for coming on, Mr. Akeredolu, Secretary, Network for Electricity Consumers Advocacy of Nigeria. At least they keep the NERC in check, so everybody needs a check, don't we?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time as well. So we do have a number of emails first before we go to the other aspect of it. So several, let me see, which ones do we start with? About the electricity tariff. There, let's go there. Nakom Johanna, I think he writes in from Jos. He says, good morning, guys. I'm from, I hope I get this right, Anguldi, Jos, South Local Government Area in Plateau State. My neighbor went to recharge his meter and was told that he's owing 24,700 naira. On further inquiry, it shows that the mistake was from JED staff and that he has to pay for their mistake. If not, he can't purchase any units. This also happened to someone I know in Abuja with a sum of, what? 90,000 naira. We don't know who will be next and who to channel our issues to. Thank you for your time. Well, of course, I think that has to be the electricity distribution in any RC, actually. Channel it to any RC. If you have any, if you're not clear about that, we can always send you those NERC contacts, the timeline, they're on social media. Go there and send it. If they don't answer, escalate it. We will at least also lend a voice to ensure that all of these are answered.
We have this one here from Olabode Abdul Kabir Oguns. It's a pretty long one. He goes, this is what happens when you put the wrong people in the right place. Apparently, it's becoming a norm in Nigeria where the rights of citizens are grossly abused and no one is there to defend and protect our rights being abused. It's quite unfortunate and awful. Indeed, sometimes I do ask myself, what is the essence of having governments in place when we keep facing challenges day in, day out in the midst of this economic hardship, when Nigerians are still nursing the removal of fuel subsidy? This is completely fraudulent and it should be reconsidered with immediate effect. That's just part of the email there from Olabode Abdul Kabir Oguns, really voicing his frustration on this particular situation. Ayo?
Well, to believe me, Kayla, if we took a poll today with Nigerians asking what should be done, I'm almost certain 95% of people will be on Ogun's side. Because Paul Agbolade also says it's just a pity that instead of blocking areas of revenue leakages such as electricity theft and unmetered customers, NERC and DISCOs keep over-milking the few patriotic Nigerians and organizations. The fact remains that in the short run, the DISCOs can think they are doing well. But in the long run, they will be back to square zero when serious and future-focused manufacturers have moved to solar and other alternatives. I stand to be corrected that a company like Dangote Group and even some financial institutions in Nigeria of today are using alternative power supply for over 80% of their operations. Who laughs last? Who laughs longer? That's from Paul Agbolade.
Okay. AGK is more interested in leadership and the vision. He says, the key question for any leader to answer is that of vision. Sadly, our leaders constantly think of the here and now. They are mostly on panic mode. Decisions and solutions appear to be symptomatically targeted. However, the leader must see beyond the citizens and propose clear plans on how to get there. This is the difference between leadership and followership. A leader sees a desirable future and influences others to get there. We're getting there, but slowly and painfully, AGK, as it says.
I mean, those are some of the emails that we have on that. The next email that we have has to do with the student loans.
Yeah.
This particular one here from Joshua DeBalson. It says, the Student Loan Act is a welcome development, especially to the less privileged. My question now is, why is the postgraduate students, I think this was brought up earlier, why is the postgraduate studies exempted from the act, putting into cognizance the fact that some people will want to further their education, especially when the job opportunities are slim?
Well, we did ask the minister too, and he decided that, well, they're talking about tertiary education. So that suggested that, well, not just suggested, he said no, that they were not excluded. So if you get any contrary response upon application, you know you have to raise those questions again. Okay, so having listened and read some of your feedback about the subject matters that we took a look at, well, in the beginning, we did play, look at this visual. We did ask you to tell us if you know where this is, and it was quite interesting. We're getting, we'll have to cut it short so that you don't see the key landmark, and then you already know where it is. But
I still don't know where this is. It's only
Well,
Jonah
trust
is the only
me,
person who knows where this is right now.
No, that's not possible. There are Abuja people who know. If you look, even if you show that leaf alone.
I'm an Abuja person. I don't know where this is.
Oh, there goes your answer if you're an Abuja
dear.
person. If you actually know it. So now, let's read it. A number of people have sent in what they thought. So, Cole Richard said, this is Usman Dam in Abuja.
Come on.
Okay, well, Cole, we hear you, but we also have Ali Christie who says, no, this is Jabi Lake Dam. That's all. Ali Christie, he says, that's the person's own guess. John
Paul Michael says the river showed is located at Ushafa, Buhari Area Council. It's called Usman Dam.
Okay, well, Anthony Ame says, look, this video people are showing is Jabi Lakeside with roads to the city center.
Philip says the place is Jabi Lake when coming from Kado axis.
Okay, well...
Yeah, looks like it.
Utanya Abasi says that spot is Jabi Lake in Abuja.
Sixtus Machuku agrees, says Jabi Lake area of Abuja.
Okay, so... okay, now let's play the one and then show you where it is. So have a look at the actual one. So there you go. So there you go. So you thought you knew, right? How about this?
Yes, I know this place.
So maybe, yeah, you know this place. Which place?
Jabi.
See how people change. So if you got it, thumbs up to you when we didn't even show this. And so if you thought it was your own bridge, it's a bridge, but not first, second, or third. I don't know if it's first, second, or third, really. But there you go. That is the lovely location. So if you're going sightseeing, the thing is, know your environment. Just look out. Know some landmark. You never know. Just have something that sticks to your memory in terms of you can describe. If anything happens around you, you can describe it. It helps. You never know. You never can tell. So while you go fun-seeking and sightseeing, hey, also pay attention. Well, that is the show today. We do thank you all. What a Friday it's been. We hope you go out there and enjoy yourself today because we intend to do the same. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Assault. Goodbye.
Have a wonderful weekend ahead. I'm Kayla Nagwa.
Well, the Easter season is not over. Keep celebrating and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I'm Ayo Makinde.